Moving on to the last and final segment of today's show, it is about time that we talk about the final undefeated team in the NFL on this podcast. That is right. The Arizona Cardinals are now 6-0 behind Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and company. They are able to go into Cleveland, into the dog pound, a place which really isn't easy to win, a place which I would consider to be a pretty tough environment. And Arizona, without their head coach Cliff Kingsbury, who missed this game due to COVID, is able to go in there and leave 6-0 with the win over the Browns. And a couple things I wanted to say about this game is, over the last couple weeks, I've watched Arizona, and each time I watch them, I've been more and more impressed with them. I'll give you guys some background. Going into the season, this Arizona Cardinal team was not a team I was really high on. I looked at them in a very tough NFC West, and even though I won't deny they have always had talent between Kyler Murray, one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, DeAndre Hopkins, Chase Edmonds, and James Conner running the ball. They brought in guys like A.J. Green on offense and J.J. Watt on defense, who, to be honest, I didn't really think had much to offer at this point in their respective careers. And Arizona has been able to win all 6 of their games so far this season. They're sitting at 6-0. And Arizona last year was interesting because they were a team that, after they got off to a really nice start, not as good of a start as this one, they got off to a 3-1 start, and there were people that were starting to back them and have confidence in them. But as the season went on, you kind of just saw some flaws with this Arizona Cardinal team. Cliff Kingsbury just made some mistakes on a consistent basis in terms of his clock management. Arizona didn't show up to a lot of games they really were supposed to win, losing a game to the Detroit Lions, losing a game to the Carolina Panthers last year. These were games they should have won. Also, towards the end of the season, they lose at home with Kyler Murray in the lineup to C.J. Beathard. They also lost a win-in-your-in game Week 17 against the Rams and John Wolford, who was starting at quarterback. Kyler Murray actually got hurt and left that game early, and even later in last season, before that game against the Rams, Kyler Murray actually got hurt during that Thursday night football game against the Seattle Seahawks, and it just seemed to me that after his injury, the season wasn't really the same. In the first couple weeks of last season, Kyler was actually playing like a possible MVP candidate, but as time went on, those talks kind of dwindled. But he is in that conversation right now, and Arizona is looking to me so far this season like they're just a much mentally tougher team than they were last year. I mentioned this when we went around the league in NFL Week 6. There aren't many teams in the league that would be able to go into such a tough environment like Cleveland, especially going into the game with a record of 6-0, when I feel like at this point in the season, the whole league has kind of realized what exactly the Arizona Cardinals have been doing and how great of a start they've gotten off to, that teams are finally starting to realize, like, look, if somehow, some way we're going to be able to beat this team, we have to go into the game ready and prepared and just cannot make any dumb mistakes that could give this game away. And still, Arizona is doing whatever they can to just go, whether it's on the road or at home, and just beat you. And after Arizona went into SoFi Stadium a couple weeks ago and beat the Rams, that was a really impressive win. That was the first game where it kind of made me realize, like, wow, these Cardinals might be legit. They just went on the road and not only beat the Rams, but quite frankly, kicked the Rams' ass. That game wasn't particularly close. They beat them 37-20. That was after the Rams ended up getting a late touchdown in that game, and Arizona just dominated that one from start to finish. After that game, however, I looked at a spot for them at home against the San Francisco 49ers. If you remember, that was the last game San Francisco played with being on the bye that week, or this week, and Trey Lance ended up starting the game for San Francisco. That was also his first career NFL start. And Arizona won the game. They didn't play their best game, but they were still able to find a way to win, even when Trey Lance played all right for San Francisco. They made that game a little bit more competitive than most people thought. But even when it was close, Arizona was able to find a way to win. And one consistent opinion you will see with me throughout the NFL season when I'm talking football on this podcast is, especially late in the season, especially when you're coming off a monster win like Arizona was against the Los Angeles Rams, if you're able to find a way to win a game, whether it's at home, whether it's on the road, I would even highlight division games as a common case with this. If you're able to win games where you have not played the best football you possibly could. Arizona wasn't really impressive in that game against San Francisco. Yeah, Kyler Murray made a couple nice throws late to DeAndre Hopkins that really iced the game. And if you're an Arizona Cardinal fan, that is great news for you going forward, that finally, for the first time all year, DeAndre Hopkins is starting to look like that top receiver that we all know he is. He is starting to take over games. I feel like that is another key part, what has made the Arizona Cardinals to start off this season so good, is that they have so many weapons that they could go to, that even when you have a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who we all know is elite, he didn't get off to the best start. Teams were probably putting a priority on stopping him, but Arizona has just showed us they have so many different weapons who could beat you, between the rookie Rondell Moore from Purdue. He is one of the more underrated players in the league. I think off the bat, more people need to be talking about him and the speed and the different dynamic he brings to this Arizona Cardinal offense. AJ Green. They also lose Max Williams, a young tight end formerly out of the University of Minnesota, played for the Ravens. He was a guy that for the first time in his career, he was making a difference on the offensive side of the ball, really being a big-time target for Kyler Murray. He gets hurt, but then the Cardinals are like, all right, we're undefeated. We have to go all in with this season, and they bring in Zach Ertz, the former Super Bowl champion from the Philadelphia Eagles. He was not able to play this week with the fact that he wasn't traded until after the Thursday night game, but he should be back in uniform for the Arizona Cardinals next week. And Arizona's been really impressive. This is a team that I will admit, I totally had my doubts on them going into the season. After what I saw from last year, even though they always had talent, I just wasn't sure if they were going to be mentally tough enough to bounce back from everything that went down last year. There were a lot of things that I would see from Arizona last year, even though they were a young football team, that were just head-scratching mistakes. I mean, losing to C.J. Beathard at home, but they have been able to find a way to make it all up and are sitting at 6-0 right now and are looking like the best team in the NFL. I'm really looking forward to see what they do with the Rams whenever they play next. I'll give you the exact date on that. They will play the Rams in prime time December 13th. In Arizona at home. They also have a big primetime game coming up against the Packers. In a couple Thursdays, they'll go to San Francisco. They will go to Dallas before the season ends. That should be a phenomenal game. They end the season at home against the Seattle Seahawks. But the Cardinals have been impressive. They were also able to win this game without Chandler Jones, and that's the thing. They're missing guys. They're going through adversity, and they're still finding ways to win games. The Cardinals' offense is elite. And it's funny because once again, during that game against the 49ers, I started to question a little bit what Arizona's offense could be like. Hopefully Kyler Murray was healthy, but Arizona has scored over 30 points in 5 of their last 6 games. They are 4th in the league in points per game, averaging 32.3, and the Cardinals are 7th in the league in yards per game with over 4,000 yards. In this game against Cleveland, this offense being so dynamic was on full display as Cleveland had allowed under 300 yards of total offense per game from opposing teams. And the Browns really, if you watch them throughout the first couple games of the season, part of the reason why they were able to win that game in Minnesota was that their defense was elite. They were able to really hold a good Viking offense to only 7 points. In the game against Chicago, Justin Fields' first game, the Browns offense really shut him down, and that was their formula to win. They also didn't have Nick Chubb in this game. Kareem Hunt throughout the game ended up getting hurt, and Arizona said, look, you're not going to be able to run the ball on us now. We're going to have Baker Mayfield beat us if he wants to, and ultimately that's what worked. Arizona was also able to survive that late Hail Mary attempt by Baker, and they ended up converting. But that's what has really impressed me with Arizona, is that still they are able to deal with adversity and still find ways to win. Their receivers have been looking good between Hopkins, A.J. Green, Christian Kirk, Rondell Moore. They've been dominating opposing defenses this year. Most teams, I feel like, only have one or two guys that you're legitimately afraid of to beat you. Now Arizona has about 4 or 5 with the addition of Zach Ertz, and even the Cardinals defense without Chandler Jones. I thought they played as well as they possibly could on Sunday. The Cardinals had 5 sacks and an interception against Cleveland. They managed to hold the Browns to 14 points, all of which only came in the second quarter. Once again, after that Hail Mary, I was impressed how Arizona didn't panic, especially without their head coach. Cliff Kingsbury has been a guy that I've been very critical of throughout his first couple years in Arizona. I'm not going to deny that. He has always had really good offenses, and he's always been a great offensive mind, but he has had trouble winning games as a head coach. And I think when we look at the Cardinals this year, it could finally change because he has the personnel on both sides of the ball, along with his creativity as a coach, that can make this team really good. Arizona's defensive front is one of the best in the league. They force opposing offenses into tough situations to accomplish, like a lot of third and longs, and their defense is able to come up with big plays. When they put opposing offenses in vulnerable situations, they controlled a Cleveland offense that had put up 42 points the week before against the Chargers and were still able to find a way to win. Arizona right now, I don't know for sure if they're the best team in the NFL, but right now I think you have to say they are. We'll see in January and in February if they're able to keep this up. One slight worry I still have for this team is their style of play. Is that going to be able to keep up when the weather gets cold and we get into the winter? But right now, Arizona's playing some great football. Kyler Murray is right in the MVP conversation. Cliff Kingsbury is right in the Coach of the Year conversation. And shout out to Arizona because they are proving a lot of people wrong.